Going.
Ready? Okay, at this time, 2023.
So.
You can't hear.
Embarrassing.
Recording.
At 5:35 p.m.
You need your flashlight to get in here?
That shirt on. I have been on in my pockets.
Must have done it by
The
accident.
usual.
Formalities, and we're starting with some new formalities. Blind everybody. And I want about that. Begin the meeting by asking if there's anyone here wishes to speak before council on a matter that's on the agenda. No,
Signed up, correct? Okay, hearing none and seeing none.
none. We will move on.
And we begin with
It's our regular.
agenda. Action item number 1,
Consider award of construction
contract with Arthur Refuge Railroad Culvert Replacement.
project. Jody?
Mayor, council, Councilman Tippett and myself had a Zoom
That's you.
meeting with Helena, last Friday? Or was it Thursday, Friday? No, it was Thursday because, yeah, it was on Thursday to discuss the culvert project and is based upon the discussion and our understanding in that meeting, we had come up with some proposed language or amendment to their contract to kind of to address some of the concerns that they expressed. And then apparently Lewis with Helene, he had tried to email me this weekend, but I didn't get it, and he doesn't see that he ever sent it because he can't find it. And so he was thinking I had gotten his response when anyway, so we talked today and clarified their position because we had kind of misunderstood in some aspects what they were talking about because what we had proposed didn't really what they were talking about. So to kind of to boil this down, I talked to Lewis again this afternoon about it and putting it in simple terms. They have agreed that they will contribute $50,000 to the project, no strings attached. They will provide additional funds up to 25%. Is what they're proposing, 25% of the project cost. If we can consider some way that they can recoup this additional investment, that above 50,000, by reducing tariffs or rent or some sort of mechanism over the next 15 years of the lease. Their thinking is when they sign the lease, they, and if you recall, there was some issue whether they were even going to stay here at the time, and there was a lot of back and forth.
So they said.
At that time, and so when they signed the lease, they did so, in his mind's right or wrong, they did so with the understanding that there would be long-term rail service associated with it. So their concern is, they don't want to invest in something that may, for whatever reason, not be there. And there may be some reason. The only reason why they need rail is if this operation they do where they remix the chemicals to make the fertilizer. And I know I'm saying that wrong, but if their ability to do that goes away for whatever reason, they no longer need the rail. But then, they again, because when they sign the lease, they fully understood that there would be long-term rail. They don't see a reason why they would be responsible for paying for this repair to this culvert, but they are interested, obviously, in getting the rail service back and working with this, as best that they can. Feel it's only fair that above this $50,000 that they have some mechanism they can get it recouped over 15 years of the life of the lease. He didn't say anything about asking for interest or anything like that. One thing to consider, I did some quick calculations and looking at the increase in tariffs and dock fees that we just adopted for this coming year. If we were to put a freeze on that for Helena, that will probably save them, I'm guessing, we don't know until the end of the year when we do the calculations, but looks like it might save them about $18,000 based upon the quantities for 2023. If they did the same business in 2024, it would save them about $18,000. That's for 2024, yes. And that's not even considering this 10,000 that they pay for the rail fee. That's not taken into consideration of that. So, if in this 2024, they save $18,000, if then at that point, that becomes our new base, and then any incremental rates, goes up from that base instead of, our increased base that we just adopted, if that makes sense. Then in theory, they'd be still saving that initial 18,000 each year, give or take. Of course, you have to go back and each year you have to look, reevaluate and look and see what the actual savings was. But what I'm saying, it is feasible, I believe, that by doing that, you could come up with a savings of, easily $100 and some thousand over 15 years.
18,000 times 15 is 207.
Right.
Have you discussed this with them, or you just?
Yeah, not these particular figures. All he said was that they want some concessions with increased rates over the life of the lease, so that they have a good chance anyway of recouping this cost, about $50,000.
How'd you end the lease session go?
He left abruptly.
Yeah, he was in an airport,
But
so it was hard. And
he
he didn't hear the part about 175 at all. He didn't hear that. Because I mentioned that to him. He said he must have already been off the call, or service was bad, because he did not hear that part.
yeah. I'm not gonna say it. Oh, he heard it. Okay. I personally think that we need to take a little time and think about it, because they really should be better prepared to pay a little bit more than 50,000 than what they're offering right now. I know they said they'll pay 25% of the project, and we're in a bind on this project. But we could use some mitigation funds if we waited a while. So it just depends.
That I think we talked about that last time. That is an option. We just can't do anything for years.
Yeah, I prefer that option, actually, because it sounds like, there's a little difference of thought on this discussion with them, and this may go on and on multiple times. So it might be better just to go ahead and plan on the mitigation and just, it may take a little longer, but let's just do it that way. Because I'm not interested in putting $500,000 of taxpayer money on rail that is only used 1 month a year by one company. And apparently they're saying they may not even, there's no.
It's more than 1 month a year. It's like, what, 7 or 8 months out of the year.
I don't know how often they use it, but he did mention that he'd possibly have to switch production at different plants if there was a delay. And I personally think it's going to cost him more than what we're asking for the rail.
Well, and again,
to switch that product over to a different plant.
And just to be, so everybody knows what we're talking about, is that this coming year, we postpone it for this year, whatever. So time frame that they cannot use it, then they don't need the rail. So they will not be mixing this product here in Port Lavaca. They'll be mixing elsewhere. So we will not be bringing in the tariffs we normally do, which again, based upon last year's, we're looking about $74,000 new rates that we would not bring in.
Just from the rail product?
from rail and barge, because they wouldn't need the barge traffic either, because they bring, as I understand it, part of it comes in on rail and part of it comes in on barge, and they mix the two. And so none of it would come to Port Lavaca, it would all go someplace else. But yeah, I mean, we can, I mean, if we want to put this off and, you know, again, sit down with them and, you know, I mean, that was my understanding from our meeting Thursday, what he was explaining, that we wouldn't see any tariffs, you know, at all. And when I calculated that, it was $60,000 this year. And with the new rates, that would become $74,000. So, I mean, it's something else to consider.
You know, if we go for mitigation funds, are we looking at 2 years out or one more?
Oh, I mean, you couldn't do anything for a year. And so, I mean, realistically, a year and a half. So, yeah. And we probably have to have a special meeting, guys, because what we're doing tonight, I mean, I don't know if we can, I don't have all the, yeah, we might be able to handle it on October 9th.
I have a little difficulty believing that he didn't hear it at all. And if he wants, I'd like to be able to talk to him where he hears it. And he didn't hear it.
Would you like to have another go at that? I mean, I'm kind of curious about the tariffs. I was under the impression that it was only 5,000 or 6,000 that we'd be losing.
No, I mean, we brought in $60,000 this year, and that's rail and barge.
And so if they don't have this rail, then none of the other tariffs that they have.
But they're gonna have some.
I mean, what I understood, and I talked to Jim too, that none of that, they won't be needing any of it. It's what they're bringing, the tariffs are stuff that they bring in to mix. And so all that will be taken someplace else, but I can clarify that.
Yeah, because when they mentioned that they may not keep the rail.
No, what this is,
If they
no,
can't.
their concern was if for some reason, you know, the community, whatever, no longer wanted them to, there was not a need to manufacture fertilizer in Port Lavaca. And there was no need for them to do it here.
Our farmers depend on.
Right, and
fertilizer every year.
It's
So
most likely isn't gonna happen. He was just saying
I
that
think-
if something were to change,
I think it affects their sales too.
yeah, well, it's gonna cost them a whole lot more money, yes.
So let's go. We're fixing that, I think I need to talk to him again.
Can we suggest, I don't know if we need a motion one for that, but I would suggest that you guys have another. I'd like to
And-
clarify the revenue loss for them and for us, you know, and just
Okay,
that way we should understand each other's position here, I think more clearly. That's what Mr. Tippett is saying.
well, I mean, again, I mean, he made it clear to me that they do not feel it's their responsibility to pay for it. But they are willing to give $50,000, no questions asked, but anything above that, they are requesting a mechanism to where over the next 15 years, they could get that back.
So the next meeting,
50,000?
No.
No, over the 15, so it would probably be like maybe 110,000,
Yeah.
or it could be 180 if we have to go with the more expensive option.
so next time when you guys talk, you know, one of the things, you know, they're a pretty big company, they have a different supply chain. Maybe it'd be worth asking them if they could check their purchasing and see if they could get the culvert 6 months.
But again, you're taking, so I don't know how much, I mean, what would be, I mean, we can ask, it's just, there's so many, you're increasing the likelihood that something's gonna go wrong. I mean, either we've still got to hire somebody or rent something to even offload this stuff. This is huge pipe. Gotta have someplace to put it. If we damage it, then it's on us. It's not on the contract or anything. It's just, sometimes to save a few bucks, it ends up costing us money, and time, but
We heard back from the railroad on the.
we have not. That's the other, we have not heard back from the railroad. I talked to him yesterday and he said he's still hopeful he'll hear something this week. I did stress with them that we really, need to know, again, originally, I had offered to pay the extra, I think it was $10,000 for an expedited review. And I was told that that was not necessary. They assured me that they would not hold things up. Of course, that's before we brought up the issue with the alternate pipe spec, because originally we didn't realize that the pipe spec was what it was. But I didn't hear back from them today.
Pipe
So,
lasts longer too.
huh?
Okay, polymer pipe lasts longer than
It's not-
corrugated metal.
Well, I think it's still got, I think there's a polymer coating on it. It's just, it's a thicker and it's a riveted steel.
Still.
But I mean, the other stuff, it still has the E80 loading. Probably will be okay. It's just, it's not what they normally do. And so you've got to go through a different route to get it approved.
Jody, it'd probably be easier too, drafting wise and record wise for the city, that you figure out amount to credit every year instead of doing a calculation every year. So if it's 14,000 between six.
So if we did it, just split it over 15 years.
Well, every year would be 14, well, I heard 60 and 74. So 14,000 every year credited. Be done. Or take it down, do 10,000 every year for.
So, I mean, in that case, I mean, we wouldn't mess with the rates or anything. We would just
Give them a credit.
that.
What if we did $500 every year
Well, we don't know the total,
for 60 years?
so we just have an estimate of the total cost, right? Or is this the?
Total cost of what?
Is this the final cost? How many days do we have left on this bid?
That's a very good question. I mean, usually there's 30 days. But did we put that overall?
Change much.
Yeah, it's,
To make it.
I mean, no, this is bid.
Yeah.
And so the only thing we're waiting on is, if we award, we could award the total base bid and then wait to actually issue a notice of award until we hear back from the railroad. But these are the bid amounts. This was bid in September 6th. Yeah, that's a good question because I'm not sure.
Generally 30 days.
30 days, and I know Lester will hold it, but I don't know that the material price will hold. That may go up.
The problem we'll run into is if Lester doesn't want to hold it and we are forced to rebid, they may not even bid on it.
Yeah.
A lot of companies don't like to bid on the same job twice.
So I mean,
Set up another meeting with Elena and you and Alan.
yeah, and so we, yeah, yes, I'll do that, and I will, if in fact, hopefully they can extend it at least till the 9th. I did not check today. And I know Lester won't have a problem with it, but I'm not sure about the supply. So for now, I guess just put it off till the 9th unless
Yeah.
we hear otherwise and we need a special meeting.
Okay, just take no action at this time. October 9th, regular meeting. Agenda item for the October 19th. Okay, we'll move on to
Item number 2, consider approval of agreement between the city of Port Lavaca and Mount McDonald.
urban engineering for professional engineering services for the application. For application materials needed to general land offices, regional council of government method of distribution. Mitigation program. Josie, this is for you.
Okay, as you recall, Mayor Council, we are receiving approximately $9.1 million with CDBG mitigation. it's we're calling around to what we were allotted. We did not have to compete for these funds. Although we still have to apply their use to make sure the projects we have in mind are eligible. Recently, we went out for RFQs for engineering. For the project that we were looking at the Harbor Refuge, the voluntary restoration project along that shoreline. We had previously had selected McDonald for the Corporation Ditch project. The two projects that we are looking at applying for this funding is Corporation Ditch drainage improvements. And if you look a little bit further in your packet, there's a draft copy of art anyway of the application. It kind of shows the proposed project, which involves looking at a detention pond north of Main Street and other improvements, stormwater improvements north of that point, with improvements to Corporation Ditch south of that point.
Yeah.
And then the other project, as I mentioned, was the restoration project on the east side of where the old landfill was at the Harbor Refuge. That has seen significant erosion and was disturbed by a tenant a few years ago. And we have having an agreed project with TCQ to restore that site. And we're requesting funds from the CDBG mitigation to pay for that, which is in the neighborhood of $500,000. So those are the two projects we're looking at. And McDonald was selected for the one for Corporation Ditch, and Urban Engineering was selected for the one for the Harbor Refuge. So in the packet here, this first item is approval of their contracts. And this is just for the application, which potentially would be eligible for reimbursement. McDonald's cost for the application is $10,000, and Urban's for the application is $2,000.
Out of the 9.2 million.
It would come out, it would be eligible for reimbursement. Yes.
Because
We
we
didn't
were,
account for all of them. We still need other applications for.
No,
other projects?
this is, we are applying for all $9.1 million.
No.
Yes. Now, what, again, there's still a few unknowns in our proposed project. One of them is, can we in fact purchase that railroad right away? Build this detention pond. The other thing is, in one of just relatively soon, just do some soils analysis to verify that that site is conducive to a detention pond. What the available information we have right now shows it will be. We've got to do a site-specific geotech board to verify that. If for some reason that comes back and we got a big sand pit down there and we can't build a detention pond, then we would need to step back and regroup and come up with a different project. But bottom line, what we're trying to accomplish will be the same. Trying to make improvements to the drainage, the Corporation Ditch drainage basin.
Cost factors in here for the culverts and everything, are those with the new pricing, or is this with the pricing that we've been surprised with? The last couple of
Which culverts are you talking about?
Well, you got 48-inch. Yeah, the last few bids have come back almost double on material costs. So
Well, I can tell what
these material costs or reflect the current pricing or the pricing.
what I can tell you is that the original cost estimate for the detention pond and everything to the north was about $4.5 million, $4.3 million actually.
So it sounds.
Right. And so what I told them was, because for that very reason, originally we were thinking, okay, we could squeeze in a third project. Some of the work by library. But then I realized chances are real good that this $4.3 million project is going to come in at 5.5 or 6 million or whatever it is. And so what we're doing is we're putting all that available money into this project. And so even with increased project prices, we will certainly be able to do the work, the essential work, just north of the highway. But we've got also in there relining the concrete line ditch and then other improvements to the south. Those could be eliminated without significant, without affecting significantly the overall success of the project if we rent it, if we don't have a levy.
What kind of metrics do we have in place that when this is complete, that it actually did what we expected it to do?
I mean, the system is modeled. The only metrics is, rainfall and see what happens.
What if it does, so what is the problem that we're resolving with this ditch? I mean, are we gonna cure the flooding problems in part of the town, the full town?
It's within the corporation ditch drainage basin, which is, basically the biggest problem is there at Half League and George Street and a half league from about the railroad tracks up to Highway 35.
So there's no.
Alamo Heights is in is the area in the southern portion of Corporation Ditch. Parts of that does drain to Corporation Ditch. Certainly any improvements upstream, provides additional capacity downstream. But
what kind of guarantees do we have that this will resolve the issue? What if it goes in and it doesn't resolve the issue? Do we have any recourse to get some of our funds back? Or to solve it, do something in?
No, it's GLO. It's just like what we're doing
It's
down.
engineering. It's not GLO. GLO is helping us pay for it, but it's the engineering that's done on this, that if it's not done correctly, then.
If there was, I guess you'd have to sue the engineer, I guess.
We gotta approve the agreements between the engineer and the city and both companies.
Well,
And then we can bring them in and have them explain to them.
do we have sufficient criteria to state what we're trying to accomplish with this project, so that if we don't accomplish that, then we have something substantial to go back to them on? That's my question.
They have to bring it to this. There should be.
Because we're spending
We just,
$8 million, $7 million here.
we hired them they did a stormwater analysis, a drainage study of the watershed. And these were the recommendations that came back. Remember, we had an option when we did the first one, it was $17 million, and we didn't get that grant. We weren't awarded that. So this is an alternative way. Before they hadn't looked at an option for detention. And so, inherently, you put a detention pond in there, they're increasing capacity of everything north of that detention pond. We're having increased capacity from 35 down to detention pond, but instead of going under the railroad, it's going to go to this detention pond. There's,
Well, I guess kind of what I'm getting at is, the perception is that when we did all the George Street modification, all these things, it got worse. We have no recourse to go back and figure out why. So when we do this one to fix.
well, this is downstream of George Street.
So how are we gonna get it from George Street, from Half League,
So,
make sure it goes to the detention pond without it flooding everything in between Half League?
Well, there's
And if it doesn't work, what's gonna happen? What if downstream or somewhere in between there, Corporation Ditch is not running the way it's supposed to? Because I'm not sure where the problem exactly is.
That's contracts.
Why don't we set up a workshop in November and December to bring the engineers in to explain their reasoning on this project and explain the work that they did before?
Yeah, and I can get you, the information that we've got on
They have
The study.
calculations, I'm sure, that they came up with these.
that shows, yeah. It's been modeled, so that's what the model shows.
We don't understand. They need to come tell us.
Yeah, we can
And
do
you're walking in water that's, knee deep down the street. And people's homes are getting ruined.
Well, I can tell you,
First time,
I can tell you that the estimate to upsize everything was about $20 million.
It was a lot more. I remember you. and I-
So by putting the detention pond in, it's something we can reasonably do. This is no way we can afford $20 million in that location.
I like the mayor's suggestion, at least that way we can manage expectations.
That's a workshop to do some explaining to us, so we understand what they're doing.
Yeah,
Right now, we're at a loss.
well, and
If you sell
again,
us anything.
this is very high level. You know, for as far as at this point in their application, this is what we're proposing to do to accomplish this. Yes, and there's accomplishments in, you know,
Yeah, they come from their
there's actually be
proposals.
more information and I'll send that to you. Will be posted on the site. Our consultants have been scurrying here the last week or so to get all this ready. Because there's a 14-day comment period before it's finalized. So in that 14 days, that's when we can respond to any criticism or comments, or if we want to, you know, step back and do something different. But this is what's been proposed for these for right now.
Process and the applications.
At least get the application in, yeah, and then we can still make changes where we need to.
Agreements to begin the process.
So I got a question about and I think that's great that we get this, what the mayor recommended. That we sit down with the engineers and let them know what we want accomplished, and then see if this plan here that they developed worked. But the detention pond, it won't be holding water. As soon as there's an opening or the levels dropped enough, the entire detention pond will drain. It won't hold water, will it?
No.
Okay.
No, when it's dry weather, what happens is instead of all that rainwater that's coming down half league, instead of right now, it just goes straight and goes under the railroad, and there's only a 5-foot diameter pipe under there. So instead of that, it's going to get diverted. It's going to go down Schooley Street and go to a detention pond where it's going to sit. And there's going to be a smaller pipe that's going to allow it to come out over time and go under the railroad. Yes.
So I guess I wasn't very clear either. Oh, once there's
Once it drains
ability
out.
to drain, it will drain completely. It won't-
Yes, it's not a retention. It's a
Okay.
retention. It
That's
just
fine.
retains it. It doesn't retain.
Specific
water.
engineering and specific calculations. They just need to come explain to us how they came up with these proposals to begin with. And
No, I agree with you.
Educate.
Yeah,
they're doing that at Formosa right now, but you know, with much bigger than this project, they're doing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of drainage and ditch and holding ponds where they will not lose any water from that plant unless it's over like a 15-inch rain. Okay, so they're doing, they put in massive, close to $1 billion worth of drainage.
And so, just so you guys are aware, some of these numbers in this cost estimate won't be there at all because this was all estimated before we cleaned out Operation Ditch. We have gone all the way from Austin Street all the way to the railroad.
Okay.
yeah, and that would only be done if their money is even available. Anyway, you might be able to go in there and cut the slope back a little bit, make it a little easier to mow. But those are the areas that can easily be eliminated to make room for.
So a majority of the earthwork will disappear out of this cost system.
The what work?
Dirt work.
There, okay.
And understand if for whatever reason it turns out this particular project can't work. And you know, even if we needed to completely change direction and go to a different area, we can do that. We just got to go back and redo the work at a different area. But we've got a certain deadline now, need to at least get something in. And I think this is the project we've been talking about for a couple of years. And
They have a plan, we just need to know.
Big enough to put a soccer field in when it's dry.
I don't know.
Maybe a pickleball or. I've seen where they do that in other places.
I mean,
It's-
let's move on and let's go ahead and
So we need a motion.
Motion on this. We
Make
got
a
a lot
motion.
more stuff to beat you.
Yeah.
So I understand this. We'll figure it out.
All right, well, I'll make a motion, we approve the agreement between City of Port Lavaca and Mount McDonald.
Like, oh,
And,
it has to be a big mud hole.
That's a big area.
We have a motion and a second. Approving the agreement between City of Port Lavaca and Mont McDonald and
Urban engineering for professional engineering services for application materials. Yellow, Council of Government Method Mitigation Program. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I didn't get a second.
Ken second.
Sorry, Ken, I didn't
Sure,
hear.
I was talking over. Second. All right.
Back, can I real quick, just for those of you that didn't meet Dennis Adiaga is here with our office. He is my backup for cities now, so. Anyway, he's here, but now he's gonna go cover my Point Comfort meeting that starts at 6:30.
Oh, okay.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Nice meeting everybody.
Good luck in Point Comfort, yeah.
As we think
Dennis.
we're bad.
Oh, that's
We
mine.
can already.
Okay, I didn't say, anyone opposed, say aye. Hearing none opposed, motion passes. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, consider approving
Publication of substantial application to the city's planned projects for the GLO.
regional cog mod mitigation program,
The intended project applications include
public improvements,
project at Harbor Refuge and Flood
drainage improvements, and operation ditch drainage.
Basin. The applications will be available on the city's website and comment may be accepted from September 25th, 2023 until October 9th, 2023. Jody?
And the applications, let's see, will be on the website tomorrow. They sent me everything they had up to date about, 15 minutes ago or so. Actually, I guess it's been 45 minutes now. And so, huh?
Is it up now?
No, I mean, we have to put, they sent it to me, but we've got
One
to,
day.
gotta get it. Because I think I'm meeting, I mean, I can probably get it up there maybe tonight, but it'll be there for sure tomorrow. And they,
So these are the two projects we just discussed, right?
yes, yeah, and I just got this language from them. Approving the application package for Corporation Ditch. And agree to have a 14-day comment period. Commencing, the 14-day comment period begins September 27th. And ends on October 11th. And so we'll have that up by the 27th, so that should be up tomorrow.
We're approving the
Of
publication.
Publication, approve the application packages.
Substantially.
Maybe some additions later.
Yeah, this is for, and there may be changes due to the public comments.
So I move we approve the publication of substantial applications and whatever wording is substantiated in your document.
Okay,
Second.
Motion is second approving the publication of substantial application of the city's planned projects for the GLO Regional Cog Mod Mitigation Program as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign?
None opposed, motion passes. To agenda item number 4, consider approving
That
following substantial publication of the GLO Regional Cog Mod Mitigation
program application.
and upon completion of the 14-day comment period, the city of Port Lavaca agrees that the applications be approved for submittal.
so, this is to go ahead and approve submittal. Following the 14-day period and any public comments, are taken into account. So the city of Port Lavaca would hereby approve that upon the end of the 14-day comment period and public comments taken into account, that the Corporation Ditch and Harbor Refuge project applications be approved for submittal to Texas General Land Office, for the Regional Cog Mod Mitigation Program.
assume there's nothing in the comments that.
Well, it says taking those into account. I mean, if there was something substantial, then we could hold a special meeting.
Are we gonna have a workshop before the end of the comment period? Market comment?
Just our meeting, not
Just our regular meeting, yeah. Which I can get you.
The meeting that the mayor was talking about with Mount McDonald,
It would have to be at the October 9th meeting.
so they'll come to our meeting.
I'll see what I mean, I can try having Zoom in for sure, yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Workshop.
Okay, we have a motion,
Approve the.
Yeah, right, both.
Following the substantial publication of the GLO Regional COG program applications. Upon completion of the 14-day comment period. That you approve the applications submitted.
Motion.
Second.
we have a motion,
A second approving that following the substantial publication of the GLO COG mitigation program applications and the comment period. City of Lavaca. Agreed that the application to be approved for submittal. Be approved for submittal the applications.
Well, hopefully we'll have time to understand exactly what's gonna happen. That's 14 days puts it in a bind.
Well, isn't the submission due by the 17th though, or something, October 17th? So it's, I mean, you wouldn't have an opportunity to do anything else anyway.
You can turn it down.
And again, I mean, this is general concept. It's nothing set in stone.
Just submitting it is not obligating you to do this, but
Okay.
they couldn't design another project
Within,
by October 17th. You
We have a motion and a second.
I'll have to be-
All in favor, say aye.
deadline.
Aye. Resounding.
any opposed, same sign? Anyone opposed, motion passes.
The application to be submitted, it's an application for what exactly?
For the-
design, the general design?
for the 9.
Nation ditch for the
The
project.
application for the money, okay.
Project, no, we're not applying, we have the money. We have to apply, they have to make sure that this is an eligible,
Type project, type.
a type of project that it's looking at beneficiaries that the project's going to benefit. And what it's gonna accomplish, will that meet the criteria for us to spend this 9.1 million dollars?
So the application's plural, just it references the two projects.
Correct,
So
yes. But yeah, we have the money, but we still have to apply to use it. If that makes sense.
For the type of project, to make sure it benefits the right people, the right, that'll work. Blah, blah,
so
blah.
it's not for engineering. Make a motion, we close the special meeting.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn the
Special meeting and a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Not opposed, motion passes.
Oh,
Okay, anybody want a break before the workshop? Shall we,
Just move.
would you like a wet on?
What? Yeah, please.
was Jeff on that phone call?
I was thinking about that, then I was thinking I'd have to crawl over everybody. to get there.
Remember,
I think,
I think.
Well, I was going to my grandson's football game
He told me,
and they called and said.
because he kept telling me, he said, I don't even know what target I'm looking for. And I said, well, Alan mentioned 175,000. He said, well, I didn't hear it.
I would have went to the
Jeff said,
game myself.
paid to,
If I had-
That's what he told.
that it looks like
Yes.
Yeah.
So for him to be
But he may have only been talking to.
Maybe, oh,
Not to Lewis.
Hey.
yeah, I
Could be
mean,
both. Both people are one or the other.
Here's his wishes.
I just, I cannot believe that he did not do it.
Taking advantage of
Me
that.
all the time with these phones,
What'd you say?
just like I said, it happens all the time, and you know it.
These phones.
Just because
People fake it all the time.
you think that yours is perfect reception, but I've got news for you, brother. It ain't so.
Oh, we have.
Let's move on.
I'm ready to go forward. I don't know.
Moving right along.
5 minutes almost up, so we.
It's about 15, so.
No, not
like
5
5
minutes. It's a strict 5 minutes.
Down to 3 minutes?
A strict 5 minutes. We've never had one of those in our life.
It'll never be 5.
Twenty-three at 6:23 p.m.
And as usual, we'll skip the regular formalities.
Okay. We're ready for workshops. And I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak before council at this time. And is anyone signed up to speak?
No.
Not even Russell?
Hello.
No, he's got, he's.
You must have laryngitis or something.
Yeah.
Allergies are going crazy.
Just want y'all to keep doing a good job. I didn't think about that.
Thank you, Russell. Every penny, so we must be doing a good job. All right. Yeah, hearing no one here.
Speak before council on
Items not on the agenda, move to our regular agenda, which
our items for discussion
discussion are item 1, discuss edits to the facade
program.
Jody.
in your packet is a copy of our Port Lavaca Pride Incentive Grant Program with some edits in it. This, without the edits, this is the grant program that we've been using ever since I came back in 2017. I honestly don't know if the original format was ever brought to council for official approval or not, but this is the plan that's been used. What I want to do is consider some changes to this and then bring it before council and, officially have it to where, council has adopted this program. So the changes are in red and real, quickly, we wanted to, include Virginia Street from Main to 35 as an eligible location for this facade grant program. And I did go over this with the Economic Development Committee about a week or so ago. We want to add that facilities that are not in full compliance with our requirements for Chapter 20, which has to do with grass and weeds and then also signs. If they're not in compliance with our ordinances, then they're not eligible for the program, unless, of course, this program will bring them into compliance. Then we would consider it. And then I wanted to also add that businesses that are located within the historical district that was defined by city ordinance in 1981 also be included, which is basically the area from Virginia to Commerce and Railroad to Live Oak. On the next page, we just recently adopted landscaping and dumpster screening requirements, and those were for new commercial and multifamily developments. So we would include those as eligible for existing business that wants to work on bringing their business into compliance with what is now required for new businesses, that would be eligible for a grant, just like currently lighting, sidewalk, driveway improvements are eligible. And the next page, again, this is just that currently landscaping is an eligible expense, but just clarifying that the landscaping needs to be in compliant with our newly adopted ordinance. And then last, trying to decide whether we need to, as we've been doing, if we need to bring all these requests to council, and we anticipate that we'll have more requests than we have in the last couple of years, because we're trying to be more proactive with that. And especially with some of these other items being eligible, since we budget $25,000 each year for this, whether council wants to provide that as city manager, the city manager can make approval of those applications with the input from the Economic Development Committee, instead of bringing them each back to council each time. So that's
Up to the first 25, I think is what we talked about.
they're up to.
Then if you want to bring more money, that would have to come.
Then I have to come back to council and get another bucket of money, so to speak. Yes. So that's what we're what we're proposed, looking for comments. Again, this is just a workshop. I'm going to bring these ideas to you before we bring them on you in a council meeting for official adoption.
We've been doing and trying to do anyway, just putting it down where it should be, so we don't fudge down some of them that quite in the jurisdictional area.
What are we doing to be more proactive?
Well, with now that we've adopted our sign ordinance, letting people know that, if you want to restore this sign, or even technically if you wanted to take it down, that is something that we can help you with. So so Joey's, making that known to people, because we're gonna a lot of non-compliant signs around in particular. And with the dumpsters, again, if in some areas it's physically impossible to meet those requirements because their dumpsters actually in the right of way, it's not even on their property. But where it is something that could be accomplished, to let them know about that. Again, with our upcoming scenic city designation, we plan on taking that to heart and, letting the community know about it and help us maintain that status.
Anybody want to add anything to it or?
Move on to our next agenda item. Number 2, discuss the Redfish Retreat Service Agreement to be developed as part of Redfish Retreat Annexation Agreement. Jody?
Okay, I recently realized that was looking at the annexation agreement for Redfish Retreat. And in there, it mentions that there's the service plan that's attached as Exhibit B is approved and part of the ordinance. However, when I go to Exhibit B to look at it, it says that the required service plan will be developed once the property's been developed and dwellings constructed. So, and looking through a records search of council minutes, we have not found that was ever done. If there was ever anything done after this, after the annexation done in 2009. So I checked with Anne Marie, and Anne Marie, you can type in any time, but it doesn't sound like this is a big deal to do. That this service plan is not some big elaborate comprehensive plan, but can be simply a statement saying the city will provide police and fire protection and public water and wastewater collection and treatment service to the area, which we are doing, right? Now, my question is, the entirety of the annexed land, and not even all the platted land, does have, is complete. Although everything that's platted does have, for the most part, I say, does have water and sewer.
A lot of roads in them.
They don't have paved roads everywhere. And so I don't know if that, as far as the service plan is concerned, whether that is something we need to concern ourselves with or not. We in your packet, there is I did include a map of Redfish Retreat. This does show you just so you can see where all the fire hydrants are, where all the street lights are, where the existing housing is. The highlighted section is phases 1 and 2. So everything that's not highlighted is phase 3. Phase 3, for the most part here, does not have paved roads, but they're gravel roads. I would think I guess we're still providing police protection out there. We do have fire hydrants out there. So I don't know whether, we can.
We've already annexed the entire area, right?
Correct. It's already annexed.
So within the annexation area, we're providing police and fire.
Well, and that's what I want.
Different than accepting streets and stuff, right?
And the service plan, as I understand, doesn't even have anything to do with streets, right? You want to explain kind of what you explained to me?
So when you annex, part of the annexation statute requires you to have a service plan. Okay, so I recall that all that was done before me.
Right. 2009.
Yes.
And
And so when we do an annexation, it has to have an annexation service plan. Now, I think the service plan can be contingent on the developer putting in the infrastructure first. And I think that's probably what the agreements anticipate.
right. And it just didn't, it's worded weird, and that's, I just how we, because it does say that a service plan is adopted, go see exhibit B, but you go to see exhibit B and it says, well, we're gonna do it later. So I don't, you know, how should we,
If we do a service plan now, it needs to be as to phase 1, 2, and whatever 3 that has the water and sewer.
okay,
Because those are the
that's
3 things.
the things that, the areas that have been platted. Because everything that's been platted, the only thing that's still missing is some electricity and streets.
Street light.
But as far as our service, we're providing service to the platted areas.
Do it a section by areas, not service plan by area out there, right?
We could, or we could wait to the end. I mean, the fact is, there's probably nobody gonna complain because we're providing everything for everybody that's out there. The only questions there have been are administrative, which is, you know, what systems do they put in? What are the charges? What about the sewer? I think there's gonna be some changes, but those are all administrative.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of redfish retreat, you know, we have been, or I guess how it was set up originally. Again, all this happened before either Wayne or I got here, but you know, they were there was an E1 pressure sewer pump that was to be installed by the developer or the home builder. And then the homeowner pays.
Got the home builder, right? Because the homeowner was gonna have to pay for it.
Right, somebody other than.
The developer was not paying for that.
You're right, unless the developer was.
That's been a contention
Right,
issue.
the home builder, the homeowner, whoever, yeah, they would have to put this, pay to have this installed. And then they pay $15 a month as a maintenance fee. Well,
To the city.
to the city. And we were having, you know, Public Works was having a lot of issues with these E1 systems. They were failing prematurely, costing a lot of money. And so we made the decision to now only install a system made by Flight, or pump made by Flight, which is a lot better pump, but it's a lot more expensive. And so instead of previously they were paying maybe what $7,000 or $8,000 to put it in, it's now 18 to 20-ish thousand, you know, to put a sewer system in. So the developer has approached us and you know, we're agreed that that we would accept the E1 systems like was originally planned, but the homeowner is responsible for maintenance, not the city, which is accepted by TCQ. I mean, somebody has to be responsible for maintenance. And if they are taking on the maintenance and then we no longer pay the $15 maintenance fee, they're paying the maintenance and then the E1 systems would be accepted.
That's outside the service agreement.
That's outside the service agreement. That's just to kind of let you know.
Service agreement was just, we will provide police and fire. We have water and sewer
Wastewater.
connect to it, but it's, so we can go ahead and do that and be done with that.
Yes.
That under control.
So would you then bring to council next Monday, then
That's
this serves, this will be a appendix B.
either Monday or in November, depending on how much time I've got, but yes,
So they'd be.
we would be approving, yes.
Do we need any discussion on when we accept streets, sewer, you know, it's something like that, or is that, you guys got that covered?
We don't necessarily, I mean, the streets were dedicated to the public. And I have not found anything that would indicate that we wouldn't be responsible for maintenance after a year or so. Now, phases 1 and 2 were accepted. And we, you know, clearly given permits in those. Phase 3, there's only one house that was permitted in phase 3, but it's on a road that's in phase 2. So, but phase 3, which is gravel, clearly, you know, and before we approve that, they're gonna have to kind of go back and refurbish that base. I mean, there's a lot of grass growing, they kind of redo all that, and we're gonna have to, you know, test it. Basically, the roads for phase 3 have not been approved. I can tell you that there's, you know, there's some potholes starting in a few areas in there.
Are we going through a formal handover process? I mean, I just, you know, if we're supposed to take over the streets, then we will, right, and take care of them, but we don't want to take care of them before they're in a position to be taken care of, so.
Well, they were all constructed, before we got here.
Going forward, we got a bunch of new streets going in, so, I mean,
For sure, I mean, we're gonna be watching those and
well, do we have clarification between us and the builder? Developer of when the handover occurs? I guess that's what I'm saying.
it's 1 year after completion.
Yeah, so it was platted, the current roads as they are. This was kind of done backwards. Okay, because normally you wouldn't allow them to file the plat
Okay.
until the roads were complete and accepted.
Correct.
And it was filed before that.
It was filed when there wasn't anything out there. It was a field.
And if you allow the plat to be filed early like that, then they have to put up a deposit for construction of the entire facility. So say the roads cost $1 million, they'd have to put up $1 million in cash or $1 million in bond or $1 million in letter of credit before they could file the plat. So it's one or the other. Either you file the plat after the fact, or you put up security for the construction of the improvements.
We didn't do either one.
Neither one of them.
Unfortunately, it started in 2008. We're talking 15 years ago. And it's been so slow and so frustrating.
Well, there's been a lot of ownership changes in that group too.
It started at the same time, the Great Recession or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you had Jesse and you had Dan.
And then you had a 2008 crash of the real estate market.
Right.
Right. But the thing is since that time, like Jody said, we've got 2 phases that are complete. 1 and 2. 3 is not complete because you don't have the streets finished and some other things that still need to be done. 4, 5, and 6 have not been platted. It's just sitting there and they're talking about reducing the size of the lots, reducing the size of the homes. They're looking for incentivizing some things that the city would offer. And it's just so mixed up, the whole thing.
Well, I think bottom line, I think you're right. We'll whether it's in October or for sure by November, we'll bring something to council to approve a service agreement for what's been platted.
So the streets also for 3 have been accepted, platted, right?
They've been platted, yes.
Platted.
Construction.
So there's no deposit for that either.
Correct.
We can get that done by October.
There was no deposit for
We
anything.
have TML in between. too.
Yeah, but this is right, this is just this, but I guess as a future thing, I think we need to get clarity on that as we move forward, so, you know. Don't accept a street that's subpar or.
I mean, no, we're,
Now I think they're very well aware that you.
yes.
That's like Hode. He did not get to file his plat until his roads were
I mean,
complete.
the team you have here would not allow that to happen.
And it is in the code that way.
Yeah.
Now, how that happened, I have no idea, but it is in the code that way. It is in the code of ordinances that way.
For the 1 year is in there?
Yes, I mean, I think and that's pretty standard. That's pretty standard.
But it's 1 year after.
After completion, after you
Completion, we only do one house there.
structure, your infrastructure, you're not even supposed to build a house until infrastructure is done. Yeah.
Russell adds.
I've got that one house out there on that gravel road for sale.
No, it's not on a gravel road. Your house is on,
Yeah, but
That lady that was out there, she paid for the lines.
Yeah, but that house, that's the one, he's talking about the house that's actually in phase 3, but it's on a road that was completed in phase 2. It's complete.
Anyway, that lady had health problems. She built that house and then she had to stop, then she finished it. And she's never gonna move here because she's got an awful thing that kills people. Anyway, she comes here on Saturday and goes home. Anyway, the house is for sale for $425 with the furniture. 1900 feet. It's been shown, but it's not sold.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
You'll bring
I
this.
think November is probably better because
Yeah,
I got TML.
right, we're kind of squeezed with time.
You said some of the roads have potholes in them already or beginnings of pothole. What about the drainage? It looks like it should drain fine, but then are there any lows out there where water is? Do we know anything about that? In other words,
The drainage on their design, they drain this road. There's no ditches, everything drains from the road to the lakes, surface runoff.
but sometimes you get a low. And if you don't fill it in and build it up.
Well, that would be the homeowners. I mean, that's not us.
Well, I drive by there twice a day and even, of course, it hasn't rained in a long time really, but I don't see
I wouldn't.
rain on the road.
I mean,
really
I'm
wouldn't think
surprised
it
that
would
it
be,
does
but I
drain as well as it does, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen a big problem.
Yeah. I've never seen water.
Wait till October and we'll discuss it again.
Yeah.
If we ever get rain, we'll drive in there.
To agenda item 3, discuss potential
Economic development tools to incentivize home builders and developers. Right.
And in the audience, we've got our team from the Victoria Economic Development Corporation to kind of help with any ideas in this regard. Raquel and Jonas is there to help us again with any ideas to facilitate the discussion. I'll start by saying, I've had a number of inquiries from home builders asking about any incentives that the city can offer to encourage builders to build particularly spec houses in Fort Lavaca. In other words, a spec house is one that they begin building a home without having a buyer first. So they're taking a risk that the completed house may sit unsold for some time. The Economic Development Committees discussed the following ideas, and I wanted to have a conversation with the full council. Again, reminding this is just a workshop setting, so there's no action to be taken, just sharing of ideas. Now, one idea is if the builder will purchase a significant portion of his building supplies from a local vendor, that the city would agree to reimburse all or a portion of the city's 1.5% sales tax. So let's say they purchase $50,000 worth of materials locally and produce sales receipts as documentation of paying $750 of sales tax. We would reimburse them this amount or some percentage of this. Another idea, in our 380 agreement with their we have waived all permit fees when Mr. Ho is the builder. Now, in these cases, Derek does the plan review and inspection, so it's not costing us directly. Because normally we go through Bureau Veritas for our residential permitting and plan review. So this is something we could consider offering to other builders that are building spec homes. One builder has proposed to us the idea of providing a city property tax credit to the home builder of a spec home over the time of construction and until the home is sold. And then possibly also to the home buyer for an additional 1 to 2 years. Just noting the $300,000 home would be $2,342 a year in current city property taxes. Now, if the council's interested in incentivizing spec homes, I think we need to define what a spec home is. Is there a sales price range? Or is it just as long as they start the project without a home buyer? Does that qualify for any incentives? if we offer a tax break to the home buyer, is it just first-time home buyers? First-time home buyers in Port Lavaca, or a price range stipulation? Also, what do we think about offering similar incentives to those that are building rental? Now, I don't think we put in the packet, but I think I'd emailed you. I had a copy of the real estate trend indicator report for Port Lavaca for 2023 that I recently was given by a local realtor. And it's interesting, it was interesting to me to note that most units sell within 1 or 2 months of being listed, and that which tells us that there is a need. They're not going to sit in the market for very long. In addition to infill lots within the city, which are vacant lots or lots where homes have been or will be demolished and established subdivisions, we've got J Bay, Claret Crossing, and Redfish Retreat within city limits. Just for your information, J Bay currently, there are 7 spec homes that are in the infant stages of development. They're in their foundation stage. And they have not yet chosen a material supplier. I've been told that there are only 2 lots left in J Bay for sale. Claret Crossing, there are 34 platted lots for duplex units, which are approximately 50 feet in width. And there's 36 lots for single family homes that are approximately 85 to 95 feet in width. Since we already pay 90% of the collected city property tax to the developer, I don't know that any tax incentive would be available for us to offer in that subdivision. But that's something to discuss. Redfish Retreat, just like we talked about, we get calls often from people that have bought lots in phase 3 where the infrastructure is not complete. So perhaps any incentives there should wait until the subdivision is completed. And those are my comments. I don't know if you guys have anything right off to share. Any ideas?
Just that, there's the, I'll open by saying that this is a slippery slope. I mean, it's complicated. I think what exacerbates or makes this kind of more pressing is, housing, we're in a housing crisis, Port Lavaca and numerous other places in this country. And, we've been lucky enough to have conversations with a few developers, and one of the first questions they ask is, do you intend for any incentives? So having some clarity and a better way for us to answer that question on your behalf would be beneficial. But Jody just went through several things to consider, and that's barely scratching the surface on things that we would want to look at if we got to the point of developing a policy. And I'll leave it there, open for any questions, but we just know that the margins are razor thin for these folks looking at projects, and if we can't put forth our something in front of them, then there's nothing to stop them from going down the road.
Yeah, I mean, what we hear a lot is that that it's without some little incentive, they're more apt to go to Victoria or elsewhere where it's a little easier to build.
Now, let me suggest to you, we didn't talk about this really deeply at the Economic Development Committee, but what Bay City has utilized on their they have 3 subdivisions coming in, major subdivisions in the neighborhood of 200 lots per. And they have utilized a couple of different tools. One is the TERS. So they're a big TERS city, tax increment reinvestment zone. We have not done TERS in the past. Generally, I'm of the belief that you have a developer that says we want a TERS, and you do the TERS for that developer. And I think Jonas and Raquel, that I would suggest that would be one thing the city would definitely consider on a new development.
And so a TERS basically means that you capture the property tax increase for that area that would be reinvested in that.
So those people are paying more than Or just whatever they collect in there goes to that area.
Above the
Okay,
baseline before, he said like a baseline,
gotcha.
here's the appraised value today, and then as development happens in there, that delta or that increment.
So in other words,
You
basically,
can sell a bond, okay? So for the public improvements, there can be a bond that is sold, correct? To pay for the developer, and once the infrastructure is all in, you have a price.
right.
Then you sell a bond in the TERS increment, what goes incrementally up goes to pay the bond.
Which is right now what we're paying developer Eric Ho. He just did it as itself without a bond.
Well, but it pays back much faster than what Eric Ho's. Eric Ho's gonna, in 50 years, if he gets back everything, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah,
So
especially,
TERS, as a house is built, the incremental value goes back into that. So Jade Bay, example, if you did a TERS there for the infrastructure, then all those houses that are being built, there's the increment building.
The increment is from plan to develop plan.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And it stays in that TERS zone.
Benefit the rest of the city. I mean,
It gets you housing.
yeah,
It gets you housing that you desperately need. And that's why Bay City's.
Might pick up
for right,
sales tax.
yeah, but but I think right now we're also looking at, because that's a bigger endeavor. Is there something we can do to help populate what
We already.
infrastructure we do?
Yes. So that, the TERS, and then just to end that too, for new, would be, they also utilized a PID, which is the Public Improvement District, and that's where, again, the bond is sold, you have a district. But the people that build in that district, this is, you probably like this better, they pay incrementally higher property tax
That's what I was.
fees for the bond.
Yeah.
So where our taxes would be 78 cents in the city, theirs might be $1 or $2.
so downtown Main Street, if we wanted to get people in here to redevelop those things into commercial.
So
land,
Victoria did a downtown TERS.
They did a TERS, not a PID.
They did a TERS.
TERS. So, I mean, so that brings commercial
I
and
don't know if you,
living spaces up above potentially,
Correct, that,
which I could see as a bigger advantage.
yeah, that. It's in its infancy, it's only a year old, so the increment is growing very, very modest. And so the plan is for that, for as that fund grows, is for it to be used for sidewalks. You name it, kind of public projects in the downtown core. So it's not going to be to fund.
so you can set up a
No,
TERS. It's a matter of priority of payment. When you set up the project finance plan, the PFP, when you set up that PFP, it's a matter of, because the city can also benefit from a TERS, because your projects can go behind, they can be the next that stand in line in the PFP, the project financing plan. So once the developer's paid off and if you continue the TERS, that increment can go for public improvement. Right? So I think they set it up to just be public improvement, but you also can have or put, as the creator of the TERS, you can always,
You read the rules.
huh?
You can read.
Write the rules.
So
But again,
for a finite period of time, and then the money is released to the general public.
30 usually.
30 years.
but these are things to help incentivize and build infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right, so is there something?
Yeah.
Necessarily,
We get
though,
the
because
infrastructure.
But like downtown, I think it's what I was.
downtown, you get a storefront down below and you get housing.
Right.
And then we have a lot of work that needs to go into that area, even though there's water and sewer.
Right.
It looks like, you know.
But is there,
We need to-
and maybe there's not, is there any, the question that's been posed to me, is there a desire to incentivize building? Building, I mean, we've got the infrastructure to get the building on the infrastructure. Is there any interest in?
You had also mentioned to me, or we talked about Economic Development Committee, we're approaching the tract home builder for the whole subdivision.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance.
I have their card on I've got it out today. to incentivize those houses, would we incentivize that?
Yeah, because remember, that was part to get them back to the table.
Because that, again, the tract homes are the lower priced home, 200,000 versus 350.
I don't think they're.
250 to.
No, 250, okay, but they're still the more, I mean, they're reasonable that we can get.
Yes.
Which would make more, I think, as we discussed, that's something we definitely.
So definitely that.
For the downtown development, it's really tough, and to get people attracted to Port Lavaca, we need to develop the downtown. It's, hey, I like this, it's attractive. What if we did like tax abatements for, a period of time, 5 to 7 years, they would be abated if they, we can afford tax abatements for MOSA.
Let me step in just briefly on that. 2 things. Number 1, you can't abate below the base. So the law does not allow for that. So whatever they're paying in taxes, it would only be what they improve.
Improve, that's what
And it would only be for city taxes. And it doesn't, it's not very significant.
It's not gonna be enough to help pay all the hundreds.
And then the idea of, not, if they use local vendors, like title companies and whatever kind of taxes you might pay there, lumber companies, tile companies, if they use local vendors, real estate services, if we could afford to give them, a tax, abatement or a returns on their investment in Port Lavaca.
So I do know, and I talked to the committee about this, that Palacios in Beachside subdivision, which is their newest subdivision over there, 15 years old, but it's the newest. They did residential tax abatements to incentivize building a home. Only city taxes, only for 3 to 5 years.
That was to
To the owner.
To the whoever purchases. Yeah.
I don't see why we couldn't do something like that.
And that was
very minimal.
whether they were first time home buyers or not. That was
Just because most of them are second.
That's the question we get, whether that would be a tool that would be available.
because that would be a selling tool for them.
Well, in your experience, what do people want to see? What are the developers looking for?
That specifically is what they've asked us, if that might potentially be on the table, is it abatement of city taxes for a period of time, and how that might look and how it might be structured.
How does that help the developer? That helps the homeowner.
It helps
Well,
the developer in
yeah.
selling it, but also their taxes are
They're
abated.
holding it for a period of time, so.
So if we get this bigger, what is it called, the expressway with the shipping channel, we get that bigger and wider channel, all bets are off. There's all kinds of expansion here. We're gonna have people begging for houses here, and builders are gonna be jumping over each other trying to get over here.
In that very, yes,
So we can stop the incentives.
yes, you could adopt a policy for 2 years, 3 years.
Tax abatement has to be adopted every 2 years.
Yeah,
The TERS though is 30, once you adopt it, it's
You can do it for whatever period, Tim. You could do it for 10 years, you could do it for 15 years. But generally speaking, when you're looking at bonding, and you could bond the downtown, I guess, for whatever.
And with
that
it-
would be.
and with the TERS, the taxing entities can opt out after a period of time as well.
And in Bay City, they've had great participation. The county participated at 100% to put their money back in. Our hospital district puts their money back in. Their port puts their money back in at 100% participation.
they're also getting some big employers coming, right?
Yeah.
Or not. Now, so which came first?
Within the city limits, yeah.
Well, Tenaris was already there.
A lot of our growth is gonna depend on that port. I understand there are plants that are already wanting to come here, but
Well, we have a big Dow expansion already coming.
Yeah, well,
But I think, you know, what I'm hearing is kind of the short-term issue, which is I'm hearing, and Russell, you can type in too, is that there are people that want to move to Port Lavaca, and particularly schools are a big plus. They'd rather have their kids here in county schools than in Victoria. And there's nothing for them to show. They don't even have anybody to show, any houses to show them. So they have to take them to Victoria to show them houses. That we don't have an inventory right now. And so it's
Spec, and we do not have any spec home builders that are not custom.
right. I mean, these 7 that they're trying out at Redford, I mean, Jade Bay is kind of they are interested. That's 7. He wants to do 13 more. If there's some interest in helping that happen.
So on the spec homes, if we said, okay, we'll do it, but you gotta say, you have to build at least 4 homes.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah, some kind of.
just one.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I would think so.
persuade Ho to cut out some of the duplexes and start to focus more
He's
on
open to it.
family
He's
homes.
open to that. That's what, I mean, I'm trying to get him back to the table because he has to do that. He has to bring that back to council to do that. And I think right now what's holding him back is he's building this one duplex and then these other houses. And he wants to finish those, see how they are received by the buyers and decide then, should he continue on with duplexes or just single family home? I'm thinking the single family home would do better, but I don't know, Russell, you may have a different idea, but he needs to come back and replat those.
That's what I'm thinking.
And we'd approved that once, but it was specific to that tract home builder, so we have to do it again. You know, because that tract home builder went away unless we can get him back to the table. But I guess right now the thing is, are we, you know, would for sure, if somebody did want to come in and build 5 or more, you know, spec houses, they don't have anybody to, it's not a custom house, you know, they're going to go build. Would we be interested in incentivizing that?
So that'd be the tax rebate, most likely.
That could be, I mean, again, I'm thinking that the sales tax thing, you could, I mean, that could be,
$50.
that's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a lot, it's something.
I think the fact that we've discussed it. I think we're all in favor of doing some things to incentivize, and I think we need to put this down as what we want to incentivize and the way we go about it, and just do that and
But what,
talk it to death.
yeah, if somebody wanted to come in and say, do 5 or 6 spec homes in Redfish Retreat in phase 1 or 2, would that be okay?
See more than 4.
Yes. 5.
It's less than
5
4.
or 5 or 1. I mean, that's a start, right?
Yeah.
Jonas, you look like you want to say something.
Well, I mean, I was offering, to Jim's point, is how to get to a point of a policy is if, you know, we could take a stab at something and present it, and you can kind of mark out things that you like and don't like. But that, I think, kind of advance.
Yeah, to set up a policy, so we've got some, because again, this is just discussion, but then something we can vote on.
So this kind of stuff is part of the service you provide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, both Jeff Downs, Danny Smith have offered, they've sent an idea of what they would like to see. And also Roland has done the same thing. So we have both of those. And so we could share that with you. So, you know, you guys could figure out what you want to do.
And generally, that's what I've just
And
described
so
here.
just
Yeah.
put it down and show it to them and let's move on.
One question for clarity, though, just read the room is, you know, we're talking about building structures and homes. Would that be for sale, or would the rental component also be something you'd be interested in?
Because we do have a gentleman that's interested in coming and building about 5 or so, 5 or 6
Single family.
single family homes, but he's gonna retain, initially at least anyway, retain them and rent them out.
He's the owner, he should get the benefits, so he builds.
So we get the tax.
Those wouldn't be spec though. Just, I mean, in the policy, we
They
would.
would be spec homes, right, because he's building for himself, but they would be for rental units, yeah.
As long as we get the houses built. You may sell them.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a thought out there.
And that might be a price point on that, I don't know.
The real estate, like with Jimmy's stuff done, that we might have saturation and with Jerry's.
Well, I've heard that, and so I don't know whether.
See,
Saturation.
Has Jimmy,
For
a new addition?
So he's got 2, and then, the Jerry's got his that were fixed.
Right.
so we'll see how the market takes those.
And I think part of the conversation in the committee was that people don't want to live in an apartment. They actually want a home.
Yes.
And that's where it was.
They don't want to do anything. That's what they don't want to have to mow much grass. They don't want to have to fix anything.
Like a little.
Patio home.
They want it
Call it.
ready to go. So they're not interested in these 1975 or 80 homes that need some work on them. They want
Yard, yeah, they want.
Shelter doesn't have any
A
problem.
lot of these houses, the plumbing and the electricity and everything is substandard in some of these older homes.
I don't know, because Raquel has asked us too, is if we're interested in setting up the first time, so we found that program in San Antonio that they did. It's a first time homeowners program that was set up by the city of San Antonio, much bigger than us, of course, but it would on a sliding scale would provide up to, depending on their income and everything else, $15,000 to a first time home buyer in closing. So the city contributes money to their closing on a first time home. They do it through the use of a TERS. I assume they would make the whole city the TERS in that particular instance. And then that
increase. I mean,
yes,
what we talked
I'm
about.
not exactly sure how it would work, but the
Goes back.
15,000, and 15,000 was the max, okay? Do you remember the name of the program that? Yeah, there was
We
a,
talked about that, like even on our home program where we're rebuilding substandard homes. I mean, there is a match, there is some money that the city will be contributing to those. It could maybe be done in that same thought process.
yeah, but I don't know if y'all are open to something like that for first time.
It's worth investigating.
What can we start with?
Look at the numbers, we'll just see, but yeah, I think it's worth investigating.
You know, the rental and the one, and then just keep looking and bring more things as you find them. But sounds like the two.
But I think it's, we're looking at something with some quantity, like 5 or more.
But we've discussed the rentals and we've discussed just the spec home, so maybe we just go with that.
Yes.
Let's get something.
Right
going.
now.
You want tax abatement? Residential tax abatement. Now, where I see the detriment to that is, are you gonna have pushback from homeowners that say, how come I'm not getting abatement in my taxes?
Well, we're gonna have pushback no matter how if we give them $15,000, we're gonna give.
We're gonna have pushback.
One year, 100%, year 2, maybe 50%.
Well, those same people that are complaining about it, they can move into one of those homes. Yep. There you go, they're home.
Yeah.
Good
Do
point.
you have enough to bring us something?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
And then I guess
We'll work with Jody and.
track homes, if there's any way to attract a track home builder, I mean, I think that's what, we would certainly be interested in that. And then the downtown stuff, at some point, we gotta do something.
We gotta do it.
We have to incentivize these owners to do something because there's no incentive at the moment, so.
Well, I mean, the hard thing about that is there's nothing that can be done that's gonna be cheap or not gonna be very, very expensive. Because some of those buildings, I think they probably need to be torn down and rebuilt.
Was it more done with the city of Victoria where they've come up trying to attract businesses to come down? Not just the TERS. TERS was one tool they used, but is there any other tools they use that you know of?
For
Trying to attract that business downtown and the improvements to downtown
I
and,
mean, the same programs we've talked about today there's a facade grant program and there's those are the two big ones is.
So with all the development we're having down on the seashore and walkways and all of that, the park, and what we have kind of planned for Commerce Street, development downtown may be expensive. Initial thing might be expensive, and it's going to have to probably take some deep pockets to get in there and do it right. But that's where the money's going to be in Port Lavaca. That's where people are going to be spending money, and so that's what that's the selling point. Is it's a little bit of an investment, but that's where the money is.
There's another program called the Big Grant, and that's for if you buy an old building. There might be something, an added cost that wouldn't be an additional building, like for roof costs or HVAC unit or something, so you could apply to that for that program for something that would be tied to a historic building in the downtown.
and is that through the city?
That's through the sales tax. Yes.
Sales tax.
Sales tax, yeah. But we'll put something together. Give us about a month. Would that be doable?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, we're not.
we can redline it,
Look at anything.
mark it out what we don't like, and add to what we like.
You have any outlet malls that want to move down here on the coast?
Got a couple. We'll look.
I'm telling you, this is prime territory for an outlet mall. Leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Raquel, do you have anything? Raquel, do you have anything you'd like to say, or you had some really good points in the meeting?
The only thing is, I really would like to keep that gentleman, abreast and at least on the hook, because he was interested and he did express.
So it sounds like, I mean, we're generally okay with rental property, and again, if we're 5, and he was looking at over 5 units.
He does want to do rentals.
Yeah.
If those succeed, which, maybe I'm being a bit Pollyannish, but I really do think they would succeed.
I think,
That he would like to do something more permanent. Nothing against, what Mr. Smith or Jimmy have going, but he does not want it to be where it's tied to a voucher. Just because of the strings attached and.
right, and that's,
During that.
and on theirs, 50% of their units have to be tied to income levels because it was grant monies. Yeah.
And that's, I think, for 30 years.
Huh?
I think that's for 30 years too.
I mean, you can offer that if he does it and it works out well, we're willing to work with him in the future, not just one time, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We can move to agenda item number 4.
Thank you.
Leave it. Jonas, don't forget to talk with the industry in the area.
So their employees provide incentives also for purchasing homes.
We do that regularly.
But they have plan, I know for most of housing Dallas, some plan too for helping their employees purchase homes, especially first time buyer. So we can incorporate that with what we do. It might be something substantial.
Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank y'all for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
Good for staying.
Move on to agenda item 4, discuss recommendation of Port Commission to no longer allow liveaboards at nautical landings marina.
Again, this is only for discussion tonight. Council can instruct staff to gather additional information or answer questions that are brought up during this meeting here. To bring anything back to council for action. Currently, there is only one tenant that lives aboard at nautical landings. There have been issues in the past with personality conflicts and such with the live aboard tenants, and that's taken up a lot of Jim's time as harbor master. We've come to understand that many marinas no longer allow live aboard tenants. Rockport allows them for only 10 days a month, which essentially works out to allowing them on the weekends. For simplicity and to reduce liability, the Port Commission has recommended that we no longer allow board tenants. If council wanted a few things that we could possibly consider before placing a moratorium on board tenants, and to see how that goes, would be, and I think some of this we really need to look at doing, require first and last month's rent upfront. And again, we need to adopt this regardless. We have not been doing that. We get the first month's rent, but we don't get last month's rent. And so oftentimes, we're left, trying to find somebody because they've left and up the boat there, and there's all sorts of issues. So requiring first and last month's rent, require applicants permission and payment of an appropriate fee to perform a background check, just as we would for a potential employee. Require references and contact numbers be provided of previous marinas, from their most recent to then going back in time, depending on how old the boat is and how long they've had it. Increase the rent payments to account for increased costs to keep the day room up and to account for increased trash and other utility services that are inherent with somebody that lives aboard. And also add specific language to the lease agreement that prohibits foul or loud language, music, unsightly premises, et cetera, et cetera. Council concurs with the Port Commission to place a moratorium on liveaboard tenants. Perhaps the existing tenant should be grandfathered and this apply to new tenants. I've attached a copy of the current lease agreement for Nautical Landings Marina, just for your information. I don't know, is Jamie O'Neill online? Okay, he's one of the Port Commissioners, and he was not able to be in attendance at that meeting where they voted on this. He did want me to express his concern with that policy. He's very much in favor of allowing liveaboards at Nautical Landings.
He also called just before I arrived and said that he just wanted to reiterate the fact that he would prefer to keep liveaboard here, just enforce the rules, force the law or whatever, and then as far as payments and things like that. But he was very much in favor of not eliminating liveaboard.
And I don't believe we've had any, payment and that. I mean, everybody's set up now on automatic drafts, so we don't really have that issue anymore. It's just, as you can imagine, when you're dealing with people, sometimes you can have personality conflicts and, it's just, I think there's been some instances in the past, there's been issues and it's dealt with liveaboards. And so, one option is, okay, we just don't have liveaboards anymore. And that takes care of that problem. But like I said, I've offered some things that I do believe we need to improve upon. And perhaps if we institute some of this and see how that goes, that may help take care of some of the issues.
Better rules. We've had some problems, but it's nothing really major, but
Right.
One guy drinks a bit, another guy gets mad at them and they yell at each other, but it just, little things like that. It causes problems.
What we need to do is put in some
Require
up front when they come in.
We allow people to just come in like for a couple nights, on their way to some other destination.
Yeah, I mean, they can, he's got,
Want to continue that.
So how about, could their rate be higher? Because they already are higher.
yes, no, right now they're not. I mean, they pay the same. And I don't think, some people are saying, well, they use more electricity because they're living aboard with AC, but a lot of those boats, even if they're not there, they've still got their AC on, because of mold and mildew and everything. So, and we are charging enough to pay for electricity, but there's no doubt that it does cost that all our expense in keeping the day room clean, that's due to liveaboards, we do spend a lot in keeping that day room up, and just, they're inherently going to generate more debris and trash and somebody that's not living aboard is just taking care of that. So I think it can easily be argued that they should pay more if they're gonna live aboard.
What's Jim Rudolph's opinion? I mean, he's the one that's a deal
That
with.
was when his recommendation, again, his recommendation was because of the issues that's been dealt with down there. It takes, when there is an issue, it does take a lot of his time to deal with it. So, his recommendation was,
Recent incidents.
Yeah.
That.
Make this very fresh.
Right.
but I've talked to him. I mean, he's not here tonight because he's not well. He's ill. But I've talked to him a couple times since the meeting, and he agrees that, that in instituting some of this, particularly with the background checks, and the increased rate, that, I think he thinks that will definitely help. And I would, as opposed to just saying right now, let's not do it. I think let's give the situation a chance, impose some of these stricter guidelines, and then see how that goes.
Please, he can get rid of them pretty quickly
Right.
if they violate the rule. Right now, it's.
There's rules, but it's concrete. It's not real easy to.
Well, it's just like an apartment. It is.
Yeah.
Hard to be.
Right.
It is hard to evict people and it takes so much time. If you have a non-cooperative person that just has decided they're not gonna leave.
I think the same with RV park, right?
months.
Right, I mean, exactly. I mean, it's potentially the same issue with the RV part. We just, knock on the wood, we really haven't had that many issues out there.
Is the current level board gonna pass a background check? I mean, I don't know if it says.
I don't know. I would assume so. I know my understanding from Jim is the current level board, he is a help to Jim, that because he does kind of keep an eye on things in the evenings and the weekends when we're not around, and lets him know if somebody's snooping around and doing something they're not supposed to be doing or whatever. So in that sense, he's a help.
We're not requiring drinking alcohol.
No, this would just be a background check to, make sure, just so.
And what would prohibit them from
Felonies
Yeah, I would think the
in
same,
the past 10 years.
Yeah.
the same thing that would prohibit us from hiring somebody, or, we wouldn't want to hire them, we wouldn't want them.
That's pretty good.
We still
I don't
got,
know.
Right, that's.
we have the campers out there, the trailer park out there at the other Lighthouse Beach. Same thing could happen over there. Are we
Yeah.
gonna apply these rules to them too?
I mean, that's up for conversation.
I've never seen that done for an RV park.
I mean, we've been very fortunate, and we really haven't had any issues out there. But we have, in fact, had issues with their.
But, I mean, if they're costing extra money, like you said, the day room is mostly for the liveaboard, right? So we have a pretty big area there that's used by just a few people.
Yeah, my question, if we got rid of liveaboards entirely, do we need the day room anymore?
No, it would be another meeting room, could be something else, could be another office, so, that's another.
Yeah.
So Alan, I guess I see is different with the RV park is those people do live there. They're used to living there. They're living there, and boats are not conducive to that. I guess. That's the only difference I see.
Well, the liveaboards we have, they live there. That's their,
Yeah, but there's one. It's not.
How about
yeah.
we had a bunch?
RVs, pretty much everyone who's staying there is living there.
Yeah.
How much would you increase the rent?
I don't know. I'd have to look at that. I don't think, what we would want to do is look what we're paying for janitorial services, and kind of prorate that out and make sure that, I know it's costing us like $600 a month, but that's not just the day room. It's the day room plus the public spaces on the south end, which is, so.
We've just your rates.
With Rockport and Ranges Pass.
Yeah, I know, and again, we haven't really looked at adjusting our rates overall much yet, because we still don't have a working breakwater. And so, until we have that breakwater that's going to protect those boats, we're not really out there trying to really advertise and bring nice boats into this marina that, you know.
Like we
That's
do that.
Yeah, no, we're at the mercy of the Parks and Wildlife, and it's been 5 years and I'm told we're that close, but I've been told that, I know.
Other than Mr. O'Neill, what was the general, the Port Commission, was it?
They wanted to, approve, they wanted to go with Jim's recommendation. Yes. And, you know, in the meeting, his recommendation was to eliminate them. You know, eliminate, put a moratorium on little boards.
Most of his job away. What else we're gonna have him?
There's only one board member.
Right.
You know, and our staff person are recommending it.
Like I said, you know, and again, this is for discussion. So basically, is there anything else, any other information or data or research you want us to do to help you make that decision, or you know?
I mean,
I like the.
I was just gonna say, increase in the rent and you have one liveaboard, I mean, you can't make them pay for the entire thing.
That's true.
So, I mean, you're only gonna.
He would probably be grandfather name, but yeah.
Well, I'd like to know how many issues we've had to address with these people out there on they're living out there. How many people are complaining about somebody in a 5-year period? What kind of complaints are we looking at?
Okay.
Cause some problems.
Well, I mean, and honestly, we did have, I mean, we had quite a few little boards. And I don't think there's a whole lot of problems, a few, but they've all passed away. Except the one guy that's still living there.
That's one of 7 of them, yeah. It's all days, living out their life on the boat.
Right.
There used to be a teacher.
Really?
Rode his bike to work. Can't remember who that guy was.
Okay, I will get with, Jim will collect that information.
Okay.
I think we gotta proceed and just make no more living on the boats.
There you go.
Few people that.
That's what I think.
Yes, we got.
I know Jim would feel a lot better about it because he's had a lot of issues.
Talking it to death.
Think about it.
That's what I want to know.
Yakety. Let's move on to agenda item 5.
Good night.
Discuss proposed submittal of proposal to Matagorda Bay Mitigation Trust in response to request for proposals number 2023 to 2024-01.
Okay, the Matagorda Bay Mitigation Trust Fund has opened up their request for proposals. And I, with the assistance of, talk with, Port Commission, Wayne, RJ Shelley and others, and we've come up with a potential project to apply for that is, consistent with our waterfront master plan. So I just wanted to bring this to y'all's attention. I've also shared this with the visioning committee, looking for any feedback, positive or negative. The only feedback I've received so far has been positive. So basically what I want to talk to council about is, you know, what's shown in orange here is what we would propose to try to fund with the mitigation dollars. And my thinking is, although it's not required to have a match, but if we have a match, we are that much more likely to be funded. And since we have been talking about budgeting money for to make improvements to this parking lot behind Nautical Landings, although technically I think it's pushed off for a year or two on our CIP. But if in fact we were able to get, you know, these grant dollars, somewhere up to $500,000 to put this project in, then we could say that, you know, our match is going to be going ahead and funding to do the improvements to the parking lot. In that parking lot, the proposal would include landscaping, green areas, like rock gardens to help filter the runoff from the parking lot. Again, we're working with the folks with Clean Coast Texas. They've got some resources to kind of help us design type of rock gardens, and maybe resources to help even, find maybe some additional funds for that. As part of this project or potentially down the road, because we're still working on how much all this costs to fit it within the budget. But there's 2 storm sewer outfalls in Nautical Landings that we are looking to at some point fit with a litter catcher. Whether I can fit it in this project. If I can't fit in this project, we are looking at other federal grant programs that would fund that potentially. So I would just make mention of that in my grant application. And again, so this walkway would not only allow the public to safely go from our area over here by Poor Boys to Bayfront and back and forth, but it also could be where they can see these future litter catching devices. There'd be educational signs, that sort of thing. What we're proposing is 3 transient boat slips. These would be public transient boat slips. There's no fee. They'd be for people to come in. They can park their boat to go get bait, to go walk up in the Tipsy Bean, to go walk over to Bayfront, to enjoy time downtown. It's a basic parking space
What
for
would be the limit?
24 hours, I think. Yeah, it's just a transient boat for, if you wanted to be more than that, you'd get a spot over here in the marina. But it's similar, we have transient boat slips at Lighthouse Beach. They haven't been really utilized too much, but generally I think that's 24 hours for those type of things. This dock here, my understanding of this is a great place for fishing and crabbing. So it'd be a dock to allow access for that. I was told we do not want to encroach within any area that we're receiving revenue on. So I've outlined the lease that Poor Boys has. So this bulkhead and deck and dock space would stop at the edge of their lease. Just for future reference, Poor Boys is probably going to end up being moved about 50 feet to the north. So that would provide for, future additional transient spaces, if in fact this becomes something that's popular. And whereas looking at the master plan, of course, this project doesn't, address everything we've got in here, but it's a good start. I don't think there's anything we're proposing that's inconsistent with what we're showing. In other words, I don't think there's anything that we'd have to tear up and redo, if we, miraculously got a whole bunch of money at one time, we'll do this at one time. So this is the project at this point that we're looking at putting in. The application is due on the 16th. So I'm, looking for any comments, because clearly we don't want to apply for something that I don't have council support for.
So you said,
These green things,
What?
what are those green shaded areas again?
The landscape areas.
oh, okay, good. So, have we, Poor Boy moving 50 feet north? Is that a discussion they had, or is that something that we just,
No, that's what because I went and I showed him this to see how this might fit with some of the plans he might be having. And he was telling me that he wants to, he hasn't had a chance to bring this before the board yet, but he wants to buy a new building, because that is his building. It's a temporary building on there, a portable building rather. And so he wants to buy one that's little bit longer. And so the plan would probably be he would position that new building about 50 feet north. The south end of the new building would be about 50 feet north of the south and
Right,
the
that's-
existing building, scoot it up a little bit. And then he would take this building and take it away and then relocate all his bait stand and everything,
Right,
bait area
okay.
behind it back here. And so then, long range, what I'm envisioning is you'd be back a little bit further and you could have a shrimp boat that's basically parked essentially where you see this one in the aerial, maybe a little bit to the west there. But then, in the future, you could expand this dock space. And it could be, a place where people can see a fish, a shrimp boat right there.
Yeah.
But the idea, it's the educational component. There would be educational signs. It'd be a place where school kids could be brought to learn firsthand about fishing and crabbing and shrimping.
I actually see a working boat.
Those litter catchers, is that, I mean, I Googled it because I had no idea what that looked like, but those are just like big old bags that.
That's one, that's one model. There's a big old bag, basically. There's another one we're looking at that's more like it's a stainless steel tube. But there are mechanisms where the stormwater still goes through, but there's a mechanism to capture the trash.
And so you just clean them out like.
Yes.
Or whatever.
As needed, yeah. I mean, we had applied for these through a big NOAA grant here about 6 months ago or so, but we didn't get that one. The folks with I can't think. Anyway, the same people, we're working on another grant that's very similar. It's through the federal government. And they're more optimistic that we'll be able to get it in that one. But we're also looking at, there's several other areas where we have stormwater that discharges out further to the north that we're looking at these same litter catchers. So, I mean, if we were able to fit it in here, we go ahead and do it. I don't know whether it'll fit in the budget yet.
Is that the one that had the study attached to it? Study or?
Yes,
Stormwater letter.
correct, but we did not get that grant, unfortunately.
Well, that sounds.
Foundation's still working on those. There's
Yes,
out there.
yeah, it's through a similar but different grant, because the first grant, they had AI attached to it. There's gonna be, all this AI was gonna be able to analyze the trash and do studies and yada, yada, but that did. Anyway, so this is what I'm planning to move forward with, but I'm looking for any input, suggestions, or positive.
That's what we discussed last time. I don't know if it matters for the application, but we talked about maybe substituting the concrete sidewalk with asphalt so that you could push the asphalt into the parking area a little bit. And do a larger area.
Yeah, well, we'll look at, as we look at the budget, I mean, yeah, we may be able to fit it all concrete. Because one of the things that I'm looking at is, and that's when I'm working with Matt Glaze with Urban, but we want to somehow, be able to, in part, at least in part of these, filter out some of this water. That's part of one of the environmental positive aspects of this. So whether they're in rock gardens, whatever, but we still got to get it on the other side of the sidewalk. And so if there's concrete, and concrete's gonna be more stable too, less maintenance. But maybe we can, have gaps in the concrete, in the sidewalk, and just let it flow through.
Like, what are they called? The French drains?
Yeah, or even like we've got in the sidewalk out here, just a gap in the sidewalk with the stainless steel cover on it. Okay.
Should have pursued that.
Next motion to adjourn.
Second.
But that's 2 things. But
One. Daniel was getting some fake emails, after emails. My name, respond. And so if you get it,
I think it has something to do with our new. You get one that says my name on it and a question for me. Hold your finger on my name and see what it'll pop the
wrong email address will pop up,
and you'll see
odd email, don't answer them. Give that a.
Oh, no.
report them to Jody. They used to do that with the city a lot, to finance.
Finance and all that, strange emails, especially money.
Thank you. We're waiting to deliver your package.
Oh, that's on too.
We all should be.
Trained for that anyway.
And,
It's kind of rude.
Or,
Yeah.
She haven't ordered anything.
Anyway, TCAP.
You were trained, Jack, if you remember.
Yes, everybody was trained, yes.
Training.
yeah, I went to one side, I thought we had to do another one. Now we gotta do it.
The rest of council did it while you were at the groundbreaking.
Oh, you got-
Yes. And you did-
The test and everything.
Right. And you
I
did it.
self-studied it.
He said, he did, he did.
I get it through Formosa too. We have to train. In fact, I have one coming up.
And the TCAP,
TCAP. They have Wednesday at 5 o'clock, they have meet and greet. And I RSVP for that. So if anybody wants to go to that with me, where is it? It's in Dallas on about a
It's a-
block or two from.
It's in the TML.
We're going to Dallas to see.
Is anyone going to Friday, this Friday, to
Yeah, I'm
the
going
Victoria
to
TML
Victoria's.
meeting?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Is Rosie?
Friday evening,
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
I'll be there.
Need as many people there as we can get.
Which one?
Victoria's house.
It's this Friday.
Right. You can call Lorena and get the information.
my daughter
They'll
gets
email
married
you that.
Saturday, I won't be able to make it.
Congratulations.
You have the tickets for it, don't you?
Take care
of that. Take care of that, right there. I think that was.
That's gonna have mariachis.
Can we make a motion to adjourn? We already got it.
You want a second?
I second it.
Where at?
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah, I jumped right on it till
Send that stuff.
Jack decided to talk about something.
Sorry, who's second?
I did.
And
Thank you.
I was quick. I was ready for that.
Second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.